Something that you hear a lot from guys who are struggling to grow as content creators is that everything would be so much better, so much easier. They would have all the success and all the money in the world, if only. Instead of being a moderately sloppy dude, you know, mattress on the floor, ketchup stains on the shirt. Instead of all that, you know, they were a hot girl. In most cases, I think this is pure cope. Because some of the content I see out there is not a pair of feed bags supple or voluptuous enough to salvage it. But sometimes there really is stuff out there that's good, and for whatever reason, it's just not being seen. Maybe if you had something just a little bit flashy, you could pull it out of obscurity. In those cases, you know, maybe it would help a bit to do the old Bugs Bunny routine, showing a little leg. And that's basically what one popular online Japanese biker did, to a surprising amount of success. For this episode of Tales from the Internet, let's take a look at Soya no Sohi, the Japanese biker who pretended to be a woman and almost got away with it. This video is sponsored by NordVPN. You ever go to watch a movie or stream a song, but hey, the thing that you feel like watching isn't available in your location? For example, recently I wanted to watch Pulp Fiction, but it's not streaming in the US, but you know where it is streaming. It's streaming in the motherland. So I just go to NordVPN, pick South Korea, and wouldn't you know it, now I can find out whether or not Marcellus Wallace looks like a bitch. And one account lets you connect NordVPN to up to 6 devices. You can secure them all at once or secure them in any combination. And this includes privacy on the go with your mobile phone. NordVPN has one-click next-generation encryption for mobile. And you'll be happy to know that Nord's birthday discount is extended. Right now, you can get a 2-year plan at a huge discount. Plus, at least 4 additional free months, or up to 1 year free. This is a limited time offer, so go to nordvpn.com/wang and sign up now. It's risk-free with Nord's 30-day money-back guarantee. That's nordvpn.com/wang or click the link in the description below. For as long as I've been online, it's pretty much always been the joke that every woman you're talking to is just some dude. Some sweaty guy with his shirt off pretending to talk to you. And there's definitely been many such cases, but perhaps none on such a grand scale as Soya no Sohi. It begins with a Twitter account created in January of 2019, with its first tweets later that year. Even then, their activity was sporadic, only becoming active in the summer of 2020. It was clear that whoever was behind this account was very experienced in motorcycling. They exclusively spoke to other bikers and had a deep understanding of the vehicle. But any doubt of their credibility was erased when they started posting photos of their motorcycles and scenery from their trips. Of course, these tweets went relatively unnoticed despite their knowledge. It was a nameless, faceless account after all, so it felt pretty impersonal. People aren't going to be prone to follow that sort of account. But all that changed on July 18th of 2020, when they revealed their face for the first time. Much to everyone's surprise, this account was not run by someone who might resemble a Japanese version of The Undertaker, but instead, a very attractive woman. Unsurprisingly, after this reveal, it wasn't long before the account finally started gaining some traction. Just a few weeks later, she breaks 100 likes for the first time on a selfie next to her bike, and she got similar numbers every subsequent time that she posted her face. It was a cheat code for engagement, especially in comparison to her scenic photos, which didn't perform nearly as well. So she started to combine the two and began including herself with the scenery. And this wound up being the winning formula as she gained traction over the following months. People were in awe at both her beauty and at how knowledgeable she was at this stereotypically male hobby. But looking back, there were definitely a few clues that not everything was as it seemed. For example, this tweet that mentioned she'd owned the specific vehicle for 27 years. Given how strikingly young she looked in comparison, it should have raised a few eyebrows. But the account's biggest break had yet to come. On November 6th, she made a post to celebrate her birthday. It had various pics from throughout the year and offered more info about herself. That included her alias, Soya no Sohi, as well as her height and location. She then offers this quote, "Life is young. Play this world." This tweet received over 1,000 likes, reaching far beyond her usual audience. And the replies were filled with people who had never heard of her before, wishing the woman a happy birthday. And it was with this that Soya began to gain a much wider audience. And she started to gain a reputation as the hot Japanese biker girl. Following this, basically all of her posts would receive upwards of 100 likes, with as you might guess, the selfies getting even much more, sometimes into the thousands. Which of course, then she would begin to post more frequently. And she even started doing thirst traps, with pictures of herself topless in bed, or buttoned tight Levi's jeans. This was of course rewarded with more and more engagement, and before long her selfies were receiving 5,000 likes or more each. But as is so often the case, This newfound notoriety also came with some backlash. People began to become suspicious over the account's authenticity. Not just in a name 5 motorcycles little girl type of way, people started noticing how strange it was that someone so seemingly young had so much experience and knew things that she normally wouldn't be expected to know. For example, a lot of her captions referenced movies that seemed a bit too old for someone her age to be into. In one thread, she fondly remembers the film His Motorcycle, Her Island, calling it nostalgic, which led a user to reply, "It's a movie from 35 years ago. Do you remember those days? How old are you? Are you in your 50s or 60s? In response, he was blocked. But the most popular allegation wasn't just that she was lying about her age. A lot of people began to suspect that she wasn't a woman at all, and instead, a man using photo editing software of some sort. They pointed to discrepancies that were consistent with things you'd often see with FaceApp's gender swap filter. That January, someone attempted to reverse this process in an attempt to reveal her true identity. It revealed an older, middle-aged man. There are so many beautiful women only on social media, but in the real world, I understand why they are so rare. The poster was quickly blocked, to which they replied, "No, I'm sorry, I just wanted to say that apps these days are amazing." It received over 1,000 likes, and people began flooding Soya's mentions with the photo. People started calling her Grandpa, and they began editing a man's face over her thirst traps. It's probably no coincidence that about a week later, her account briefly deactivated. But now, up to this point, this was all speculation. There was no real hard evidence of any deception. Plenty of young people like old movies, and a filter doing weird stuff doesn't necessarily mean that it's a gender swap filter. And all anyone had really done was just put her pictures through the gender swap filter, which you can do with anybody's pictures. But a smoking gun would come a month later, and this actually came as the result of a tweet by Soya herself. In this series of otherwise innocuous photos, someone realized that she'd forgotten to edit the reflection of her bike's side mirror. Upon closer inspection, they found a visibly older man taking the photos. And in spite of this pretty concrete proof, it gained little traction. The reply only got about 100 likes, so you continued to gain new followers. It really seemed like this was going to be swept under the rug as this illusion remained intact. But that all changed a month later, when the truth was broadcast on Japanese TV. On March 15th, Soya no Sohi would be definitively exposed on the Monday Late Show. It's a popular Japanese variety series that covers a wide range of topics from across the country. In preparation, the production team tracked down the biker, which wasn't difficult due to his location and vehicles being public. This led them to discover that Soya was instead a 50-year-old man named Yasuo Nakajima. Surprisingly, upon finding Nakajima, they found that he was actually really forthcoming. He decided to cooperate with the show, leading to something very different from the expose that was originally planned. He demonstrated the process of how he made the images. The final step, as speculated, was to use FaceApp. It's worth noting though that his fabulous long hair was in fact real, making the illusion that more convincing. For the episode, Nakajima posed with printouts of Soya's face, and even provided some of the originals for comparison. That included one of his thirst traps, which, yeesh. By the end though, Nakajima seemed to embrace the reveal, and he even offered insight into why he did it in the first place. He explained that it all began because he felt that no one was interested in the life of a middle-aged man. He pointed out that if a girl like her existed, anybody would go crazy for her, right? And clearly, given how quickly he saw results, he was right. The morning the show is set to air, he coyly hints towards the expose, posting a selfie with the caption telling viewers to check out that night's episode of the Monday Late Show. And after airing, this story becomes a viral sensation that goes global, with people around the world just shocked at this whole ordeal. And you'd probably expect that this whole situation would have just destroyed his online presence and people would just not care about the account anymore and would go away. It actually had the exact opposite effect. Following this show, the account had the fastest growth it had ever experienced, gaining over 12,000 new followers almost instantly. They praised the man behind the curtain and commended him for pulling this whole thing off. And even his older fans took the news in stride. While obviously what brought a lot of the people in was Soya's appearance, they found that they stuck around for the personality behind the account. And that aspect was something that wasn't faked. You could see it in his personality on TV. Instead of the outrage you would expect, people began complimenting his actual appearance. One fan commented, "This beautiful woman only exists within Soya-san." And some men even started using the app themselves in a show of solidarity. A few months later, we would learn a bit more about him. This is when he became the subject of another article. A beautiful female biker was actually a 50-year-old man using FaceApp. After he confessed, his followers liked him even more. This would be Nakajima's first international interview, and he would open up even more about his life. Nakajima, as it turned out, was a divorced father of 3 who now lived alone. In fact, his username came from combining the names of his kids. Before retiring, he was actually a competitive bodybuilder, and his love of motorcycles began when he was a teenager, spending those years on road trips across the hillsides and waterfront highways. Motorcycles are like a family member for me. I love the freedom. When I travel, I am out for basically about 2 weeks to a month, and I don't decide on a destination. I like to think, I'm going to go west this time, or I'm going to go north this time, and then just depart. And because of this, he wanted to share his appreciation for the vehicle with the world, so he joined Twitter. Even the name Soya no Sohi reflects this. It translates to Soya's Blue Ice, a nod to one of his favorite winter rides at Cape Soya. But at first, he was just shouting into the void. Even after a few months, he only managed to get 6 followers. Then one day, he sees his kids playing with FaceApp, and it's like a light bulb goes off in his head. He decides to try it for himself and winds up posting the first photo of Soya to Twitter. And as Soya's photos continued to get a ton of likes, he didn't see any reason to stop. Nakajima felt that this whole experience benefited him on a personal level. It helped him express a side of himself that the world otherwise never got to see. One of his biker friends noted that not many people would approach him due to his hard look, so the account allowed him to subvert the expectations that people had of him in real life and express a side of himself that he didn't usually get to. As he put it, the character Soya helped him feel carefree, adventurous, and seen. The only thing I'm creating is basically my appearance. Everything else is me. When you're young, you tend to be scolded or criticized by older people who say you should do this or you should do that. But at this age, there's no one around to really scold me. I'm having the best time of my life. And he wouldn't have even been conscious of the fact that he was using the character in this way had he not been exposed. It was only after this that he realized the whole thing had been less of a performance than he had thought. And once again, this was reiterated by fans that thought that his personality had shined through. Beyond that, it also changed the man's perspective on a lot of social issues. He began to adopt a strong stance against gender roles, and called himself a straight ally to the LGBTQ movement. In his mind now, these roles led to a lot of regret. In childhood, a lot of us were told, as a boy you should do this, as a girl you should do this, and I really dislike that. Unless you start, you'll come to regret it. People will say, I'll do this once things settle down, or once everything is in place, but by the time everything is in place, your life will end. The article ends with Nakajima stating that he wasn't sure how long he'd keep Soya alive. But as of the recording of this video, the account has stayed alive, and still remained relatively popular with over 40,000 followers who continue to keep up with her adventures. It's kind of crazy to think that this person who was popular for being a hot girl biker was just a guy using FaceApp. It did nothing but make her more popular than she'd ever been before. The story could have ended way differently if he wasn't as personable. And it kind of goes back to what I said at the beginning of this video. For a lot of people who think, oh man, I'd be so much more popular and successful if I was just a hot girl online, I think they might not like what they wound up finding out if they tried it. But you know, in some cases, maybe I guess there is something that's being overlooked that you could use a little advantage for. Please don't take this as me saying that you should go and try this to market your social media accounts, because this is a very rare, unique case, and I promise it almost certainly will not work out this well for you. But anyway, that's the story of the Japanese biker who tricked Japan into thinking he was a hot girl online. If you like this video, check out the video about the man who sued his wife for ugly babies. I'm out.